Hey everybody, this is Maxine Taylor with my Trumpology report. Today is February 1st, 2018. Normally I get this out to you a few days before the new month, but boy, life has been busy around here. So here we are with the Trumpology report. I'll be talking about Trump's chart and the United States chart. So let's just jump right in with Trump's chart. Now, for the month of February, now, we've got a lot going on behind the scenes. First of all, on January 31st, the day before, New Year's Eve, we had an eclipse. And even though it was technically last month, it's only within 2 weeks of the next eclipse. So I want to go over it with you now to remind you of what is not only going on now, but what will be going on 3 to 4 months from now when these eclipses are at their peak, which will be April, May, and June. And I'll remind you of that during April, May, and June as well. First of all, the lunar eclipse on the 31st sat on Trump's Pluto. Pluto is the planet of control or transformation. It's in the 12th house of behind-the-scenes activities. We know that there's a great deal that goes on, not just in his administration, but in every president's administration, because there are some things that simply have to be kept close to your chest for the safety of the people involved. For example, our troops. For example, those people who are out in the field protecting us. With the eclipse on Pluto, there is either a great deal of control going on, or there will be a transformation, but it will go on behind the scenes. Now, here we go. Pluto rules his 4th house of home, family, and real estate. So this is a very important time for him because a lot of the behind-the-scenes activity can take place with members of his family who are perhaps in positions of power, I would think. So we may or may not be seeing it, but we will see the effects of it. Now, on February 15th, we're going to have the second in the pair of eclipses, and usually eclipses occur in pairs. So here we go. The eclipse is on the 15th. It is 2 degrees behind the descendant, excuse me. That means it's on the hidden part of the 7th house. What does the 7th house rule? It rules all of our relationships. It rules litigation. It rules our open enemies. It rules our spouse. It rules our second child. It rules contracts. It rules negotiations. That is what we're really going to see after the 18th when the sun moves into the 7th house. Right now, and I'll get back to that eclipse in a minute, right now the sun is in his 6th house of employees, work, health, and service. And so wherever the sun is, that's the area that lights up and comes alive. So there can be lots of talk, which we've already seen, amongst the employees. There can be a change in the employee situation, and naturally the people who form his cabinet, the people he appoints, can easily be considered his employees. Now, the eclipse on the 15th falls in that 6th house. There's going to be a change made in the 6th house, but because it's only 2 degrees behind the 7th cusp, the descendant, there is going to be a lot of hidden stuff going on in his dealings with all of his partners, business partners who happen to be his children, his marital partner, which of course is Melania. As of today, February 1st, I don't know if she's living in the White House. The news had reported that she had moved into a hotel. I don't know if she's still there or not. And remember, these negotiations are going to be hidden. these deals that are being made or renegotiated will be hidden because the eclipse is 2 degrees behind the descendant. It's not going to be open. When the sun comes into that 7th house, though, on the 18th, he can work things out with Melania. He can work things out with our open enemies and with our allies, because the 7th house deals with our allies. The 7th house also deals with contracts and the lower courts. We'll have to see how that plays out. Now, Mercury, the planet of communication and correspondence, is also in the 6th house. Wherever Mercury is, that's what we think about and talk about and talk to. So he's talking to his employees, he's thinking about it, thinking about working with his employees a little bit more. It's all thinking and talking. On the 17th, the day before the sun goes into that 7th house, Mercury goes into the 7th house, and so he can begin negotiations with our allies, number one, number two, with anybody who is considered a partner, whether personal or business. And I'm looking at Melania. I really am, and here's why. Venus, the planet of love and beauty and enjoyment, is sitting in his 6th house of health and work, health and service and employees, and it brings a loving tone, it brings an optimistic tone, a happy tone, and on the 10th, it moves into the 7th house. And this can help all of his relationships if he will take advantage of the love and beauty that Venus brings. Here again, it's up to him. But Venus is the lesser benefic, and wherever it is, it blesses that area. It brings joy. It brings all the good stuff. So if he and Melania, for example, are not really getting along real well, and if so, it may be attributable to some of the news that's come out recently about Trump and his extracurricular activities. I think he can absolutely smooth it over. He can turn on the charm, and he can renegotiate his deal with her and with other people. Now, I want to look right here at Mars. Before I jump into Mars, I just realized Jupiter has been sitting in his 3rd house. And do you recall that the last time and the time before last, let's see, that would be January and December, primarily January, I mentioned that the 3rd house is the house of communication, and that we were going to be hearing a great deal more communication from Trump. And I said, I know, he's a Gemini, he's a talker anyway. I'm a Gemini, we communicate. And I said, we ain't heard nothing yet. And it was shortly thereafter, and I mean maybe a week after I mentioned that, that Trump talked about some of our immigrants coming from shithole countries, quote unquote. I'm quoting him. That's not my word. And I thought, yeah, that falls under the category of we ain't heard nothing yet. And I had no idea how it was going to manifest. And I was just as shocked as everybody. Well, Jupiter is still there, and it's going to be staying there for several months. It will get right up to the 4th cusp, to the IC, and then back into the 3rd. So we're still going to be, Jupiter expands whatever it touches. It can bring blessings, but it expands whatever it touches. And so the 3rd house of communication, correspondence, transportation, our mouth and our minds, it expands that. Now, Mars is action. It's what we fight with and fight for. It's in his 4th house of home, family, and real estate right now. But I'm giving you a little sneak peek forward. On March 1st through the 3rd, Mars sits on his south node, the area that can be the area of overdoing and the area of loss. and the moon, which is our deepest emotional indicator. It's what wherever the moon is where we look for our emotional security. And with Mars there, that brings anger, passion, fighting, and this is all in the area of home, family, and real estate. So with the Mueller hearings, the investigation going on, that may very easily be the area that is activated. I do believe that Donald Jr. has already been interviewed. Doesn't mean he won't be interviewed again. So there is a great deal of concern on Trump's part about his home and his family. Okay? That's only the first part of my Trumpology report. I want to talk about the United States chart as well. So, excuse me while I get organized here and pull up the chart of the United States. For those of you who may have just begun watching, who study astrology, I use the USA chart with 7 Gemini rising and Uranus on the ascendant. There are several different charts out there for the United States. I find that this one works very accurately. Okay, now let's take a look at what's going on with the sun in the United States chart. Remember that the sun is the giver of life, and wherever it falls, that's the area that is open. It opens it up. It gives it life. It has been sitting in the 9th house of foreign affairs, long distance travel. In a mundane chart, the 9th house is a little different than in our natal chart. It deals with foreigners. It deals with the upper courts, with world trade. And so everything's been shiny up here. On the 3rd of February, in just 2 days, because today is the 1st, it is going to cross into the 10th house. The 10th house in a nation's chart represents the party in power. It represents the president. It represents the public image, our public image. And I'm happy to say that with the sun there, this enhances our public image, which I think is very important. I think we always have to be aware of how we're being received and perceived by the rest of the world. On the 17th, the sun sits on the moon. Now you might say that's really good. A sun-moon conjunction. The sun is the center of our solar system. The moon is the light that reflects it. The 10th house represents the president. And so when the sun sits on the moon, it indicates change on some level. It can indicate a more emotional response from the president, and it indicates change. I'm not saying that Trump is leaving office. I'm saying that this indicates a change, perhaps in the way he presents himself, perhaps in the way we present ourselves through him. Now, the eclipse on the 15th is going to sit in that 10th house. It doesn't sit on the moon. I allow a 5-degree orb, okay? The eclipse is 27 of Aquarius. The moon is 18. It's a little too wide. But on the 3rd, when the sun sits on our midheaven, we and the president get more recognition, more fame. This is a very positive thing. I want to mention that on the 31st, when we had the lunar eclipse, that was New Year's Eve, of course, we started feeling that one big time. But it was on the 31st. It sat on our north node. The north node is the area that is a very positive one. It triggered the cusp of our 4th house. The 3rd house in a mundane chart deals with, of course, communication, correspondence, and transportation. It deals with the media. It deals with reporters. And so this was a time when there was a great deal of communication from reporters. And as I've mentioned before, I think our reporters, our news anchors, are doing an incredible job of getting the news, getting it accurate, and getting it to us. It also deals with traffic. We've had a lot of accidents. We've had plane accidents. We've had train accidents. We've had all kind of accidents. And you might say, well, isn't that true universally? We've had a bunch more because of the emphasis. The third house rules public opinion. It rules public transportation. It rules schools and teachers. So we may be hearing more from teachers, more things going on at schools. I don't mean just shootings. Now, the eclipse is going to sit, and this is the mundane chart that I'm holding up here. I just realized you can't read it. It's too tiny. The eclipse will sit here at the nadir. This fourth house rules real estate. It rules the Democrats because it always rules the party out of power. Domestic affairs, the weather, good grief, the weather. It rules land. It rules crops. It rules farmers, and it rules seniors. We're living longer and we're living better. So this is what is going on. Remember that these two eclipses are going to be strongest April, May, and June. Now, Mercury follows the path of the sun, and in this case leads it. So the south node is going to be triggered on the 5th. The south node is the area of loss in a mundane chart. So it can mean poor communication with our foreign neighbors, saying the wrong thing. I hope not. It deals with the upper courts. There can be a problem there with foreign travel, with foreign trade, with universities. This all deals with our connections with people from other lands. On the 9th, when Mercury moves into the 10th house, hits the midheaven, then we're thinking more in terms of our own public image. It sits on the moon on the 11th. The sun sits on the moon on the 17th. So there's a lot more communication from the president. Fingers crossed. Lots of communication. It's neutral. Mercury is neutral. So there will be more communication from and about the president. On the 25th, Mercury moves into the 11th house, and the 11th house rules Congress. It rules groups. It rules legislation, the Treasury, and city councils. I don't know that that will come into play in the U.S. chart as much as the other legal areas. So that's what's going to be going on with the Sun and Mercury. Now, Venus, the lesser benefic, brings love and beauty. And so this can bring a loving change to our public image through the president. This is a wonderful piece of news. This happens today on February 1st. Okay, well, check the news and see how Trump has expressed himself today. I want to tell you too that as Venus approaches the moon, we feel it. And he gave his State of the Union talk the other night, and he's feeling real good about himself. And so this is a reflection, I think, of how he feels after his State of the Union, and responses from his followers, which are always, Venus just makes you feel wonderful. And then on the 21st, Venus moves into the 11th house of Congress, congressmen, legislation, the Treasury, and all that group stuff, all that legal stuff that we talked about. Now, lastly, Mars. This is a very powerful planet. Mars is anger. Mars is war. Wherever Mars is, that's what we throw ourselves into. That's what we fight with and fight for. Okay. It is in his 6th house of subordinates, of work, health, and service. Oh, excuse me. This is the U.S. chart. It's not Trump's chart. It deals with the military. It deals with health. You know, the flu is running amok. It rules our jobs, our civil servants. It rules food. It rules our pets. It rules police, fire, and all of those wonderful people who keep our country going by serving us in that capacity. It then rules anyone who serves, doctors, nurses, that type of thing. With Mars there's anger, there's fighting, there's difficulty. On the 7th and 8th, and this is with all employees, on the 7th and 8th, it moves into our 7th house. Now, the 7th house in a mundane chart is very different than in a person's chart. The 7th house rules international affair, wars, lawsuits, our open enemies as well as our allies, lawyers, politics, marriage and divorce, and the lower courts. It also rules the public. And so let's just take this one topic at a time. Public is angry. There can be fighting. There can be, I certainly hope it doesn't manifest as out and out war. I wouldn't think it would, but this is the public not happy at all. It's also litigation of all sorts. And of course, we're now involved in the Me Too movement, and that can bring about litigation. So it's not just one area where litigation is taking place. So this is very, very powerful. We're getting out there more. If this were a person, I would say you're going to go toe to toe with the people who mean the most to you. And if there is not one special person, get out there and meet them. So it's get out there and be with people. Now, I want to share something else with you. Saturn. Saturn is traditionally fear and restriction. I see it in a person's chart as responsibility, meaning respond to your ability. It forces us to look at reality. And if you have been following my own personal input on my YouTube channel, you know I did a video called From Fantasy to Reality to Truth. Saturn is reality, and it's not easy to look at. Very often we go back to fantasy and stick our head in the sand. But if we take reality and move it into truth, that's when things move favorably. Let me tell you what the 8th house rules in the United States chart. It rules the treasurer, debts, escrow, taxes, losses, deaths, and secrets. And this is Saturn, making it real. All those secrets are now going to be coming to the surface. The issue with taxes, very important here because we're coming up on tax season. While I had mentioned, while Jupiter, no, I'm not even going to go back to that. A few months ago, I talked about the fact that our income, the 2nd house, was increasing. The problem we're now experiencing is that Saturn, which can be restrictive, is in opposition to Jupiter, which is abundance, and the Sun, which creates life, in our 2nd house of our income. So our money, the earning power, the savings of the citizens of the United States, the stock exchange has been actually doing quite well recently, but there is a holdback then on our own income, our own debts, because of taxes, because of the treasury, because of secrets. And that's the biggest thing, because we really are not privy to everything that's going on relating to our taxes. Now, the other thing, those of you who study astrology know this, Pluto, the planet of total transformation, control, or total change, is hovering right around the cusp of our 9th house. Again, the ninth house deals with foreign travel. It deals with people from other lands. It deals with foreign countries. And so whatever our belief system is now about people from other countries, our dealings with foreigners, I'm thinking of, Kim Jong-un. Pluto takes a long time to do its thing, but when it does, it is total out with the old, in with the new. And so our whole approach to life is changing. Our whole approach to people from other countries is changing. And this is very frightening to people because, we all read the news. We know what's going on. It doesn't have to be negative. The change can be positive. Because once Pluto enters that ninth house, whatever law has been passed, whatever decisions have been made, can undergo a total transformation. That's just the nature of Pluto. Now, Pluto, hang on, guys. I'm looking for the natal chart of the United States. Here it is, right in front of me. Pluto right now is at 18 of Capricorn, 18, 19 of Capricorn. Our ninth cusp is 21, so it's moving up there. Our natal Pluto is 27 Capricorn. So in a few years, when we have a Pluto return, think plutonium. It doesn't mean there has to be a war, but there will be a total change in our foreign policy. Whether it happens overnight or whether it happens over a long period of time, we'll have to see how that works out. Those of us who are light workers, let's visualize this being a marvelous ending to the destructive qualities of Pluto that we have experienced in the past. And let's see, because we can, because it's Pluto, a new day dawning. The potential is wonderful. And I know there are a lot of people who don't see it that way. They tend to look at what's wrong. I tend to look at what's right and what we can do. And it just takes a few, doesn't take a whole world, just a few to visualize. Light workers, step up. It is your turn. And I want to share something with you. Some of you know that I'm offering a phenomenal class called Take Back Your Life. This allows you to recognize your programming that you got when you were a little kid, totally let it go, so that you can express your highest and best, so that you can express why you came to this planet, so that you as a light worker can lift our planet, as so many of us are working to do. If you are interested, I'm offering it in Atlanta on February 10th. That's 2018. This video is going to be around for a while. I'm also offering it one-on-one online. I haven't put that out there yet. I'm doing it now. If you are ready to get rid of the blocks that have held you back from being the awesome person you came here to be, go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com. I'm offering a special on that class, and I'll offer it to you online as well. I would like to work with all light workers out there and help them get through that final block that may be holding them back. I've done it myself. I've been my own lab rat, and I can tell you my system works. So now I'm going to be doing one more Trumpology report in just a few minutes. It is going to be a chart comparison between Trump and Stormy Daniel. I've been asked to do it by a couple of people, and I've been asked to do other charts that I haven't done, because what I've said is, when the person is actually in the public eye, that's when I'll do a reading on them. Because a relationship, such as the one with Stormy Daniel, is questionable, morally I'm talking about. I didn't want to introduce that as part of my Trumpology reports. Well, the other night, she was on Jimmy Kimmel. So she's in the public eye. And we know that she was paid $130,000 to keep quiet. Well, she's coming forward. So I feel like, because so many of you have asked me to do it, I will do that next. I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it next. So, till we meet again next month, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours. May the stars shine brightly on your country, wherever you live. And may the stars shine brightly on the United States.